Alright, third leg of the day. Heading out of Parque Darío back towards the apartamento. And another walk. Another speaker truck.
Entrada completamente gratis.
Trying to get around this corner is often a little deadly. Yep. No, gracias. Alright, Matagalpa tours where I do my classes. Shown that in another video. People have asked where I attend my classes, and that is it. Diagonally across the street, Academia Europa is one of the other two language schools that's down the street. As Matagalpa Tours name implies, it's actually a tour company, but my tutor has a relationship with them, so we're able to rent space there. Make sure I'm not getting hit. Traffic does go both ways on this road. Academy of Language and Culture is your other language school. Same block as each other. Gotten a kick out of this before. Luke's Collection, Exquisiados Feminines. So, ladies' attire. Go figure. Subway, just as expensive here as in the States. I was totally surprised by that. So the vegetables obviously are local. The meats I think are actually brought in. That would explain the cost. But yeah, US franchise, it costs just as much here as it does in the States. I got 2 foot-long steak and cheese subs for like $21. It's nuts. Avenida de Bancos. So this is, as you've seen in other video, my normal path back from class.
Sí, lo tenemos que así es, claro. No puedo.
Actual manners on the sidewalk is always nice to see. Hotel Mana de Hilo, which has a good buffet. My favorite Mexican restaurant, Rincon Azteca, is upstairs. Young man was the tallest chino I've seen in all of town. One of the waitresses over at Brooklyn. Oficina, Charaveras and Asociados. That is my attorney's office that I point out with every video. Who's going where? Turn signals are rarely used. Other than this light, very few people stop at stop signs or stop lights. Kind of steep hills. Restaurante El Arabe, where I go for falafel and shawarma. Mercadito Campesino, a local food market. I have been told I can get a better price if I go up into Huanuca proper. This little nondescript two-story right there where it has the Litec sign, that is the sorry, I'm a little out of breath. That is Dona Coco. That is your most authentic Nica breakfast. That's the one that took me like 4 trips to actually get a seat. It is packed with people in the morning, a line out the door, a testament to their quality, to their service. Really impressive food. I had 2 Naka tamales with no sides and cafe. They make the tortillas right there at the table, and I was ready for food coma. Cross while I can. Beep. So if you weren't clear, our new viewer, what's with all the beeping? Beeping just means I'm going through an intersection. Yep, going through an intersection. Ambulance. So I tried going up the hill once. I made it halfway up. This is the location of the famous alley proposition on Dia de Revolucion. Cross, I can cross. I mentioned the river in my neighborhood. There it is. There's the canal. Fucking crap. All right, gotta cool the camera off. Buenos dias. That caught me again. Buenas tardes from beautiful Barrio Huanuca in Matagalpa, Nicaragua. It is Sunday, the 28th September. This was the last day of the Festiva de Maíz, the Festival of Corn. So the video you just watched, this was the Sunday taping I did. Found out the hard way that the events were not occurring in Parque Darío. They were centered on Parque Morazán for the weekend. I'm about to show you the quick video I did on Saturday, which is just one of the marching bands. So you don't see full-scale, full-piece bands like you often do in the States. What you do see is marching bands that are primarily percussion. There will be limited horns and xylophone. In fact, the xylophones are done very well. I'm not used to hearing xylophone done in a marching band to this level. Again, I do have the music school across the street diagonally from me. I've got a traditional elementary school across the street from me. So I am used to hearing the practice on most days of the week. Somebody asked if the kids were getting an opportunity this weekend, and I said they've had opportunities for the last month. So you have a Latin American Heritage Month celebrated outside of Latin America is irrelevant, but it starts in the middle of September through October because the independence is September 15th. It was in the middle of the month. We had the San Jacinto Day, which was the Sunday the day before the Dia de Independencia. That is the freedom from Spain, Mexico, Central America all became free at that time. We just had the patron saint of Matagalpa Day, which is the Patrina. I'm going to screw this up. It's the Virgin Mary is the patron saint of Matagalpa, so it's basically a birthday for the city. And then today, this weekend, we had the Corn Festival. So September is a very busy month for holidays in Matagalpa in particular. Many of those were national holidays. Every city has their own patron saint or patrona, so they'll have their own event for that. Festivals of Corn. This is the large agricultural city. So I just looked down some stats. Matagalpa may be like 5th or 6th in population. The city has about 115,000 in the city, but it's the second most important economic city in the country behind Managua, where over 1 million plus of 7 million live. So most of the produce, agricultural products, are either grown, processed, harvested, or packaged in Matagalpa. So again, another level of significance and importance for corn here. Now, the marching bands, like I said, it's great to see the kids. I don't do a lot of videos with the kids. YouTube reasons and common sense applies. In the parks, it's often difficult because, again, the parks here are truly family centric. But today's video gives you a little bit of a preview of the different vendors that come out. I do need to make a correction on myself. I'm bragging about watching the story about William Walker. William Walker did not embrace eminent domain. William Walker was worse. He claimed divine providence. And that's a very common theme from it goes back farther than that, but in the U.S. history in particular, the middle of the 1800s was a big time to declare that God said, I should take this land from somebody else. It's our destiny, it's our right, it's whatever. So he was a failed attorney, he was a failed doctor, he was a failed preacher, and ultimately he was a failed mercenary because he didn't stay the president of Nicaragua for very long. He was run out of the country. But wanted to make that correction because there is a significance between somebody using a legal loophole of eminent domain versus using a bogus religious claim that God has ordained them to be the massacre of other people, and that's what their God wants them to do. So not going down the full rabbit hole, but there is a significant difference, and it's a very common theme in that era. Some other updates. So some people had a couple questions. Hey, again, why am I not doing the videos with the music gear? I have made a workaround for the stand for the Soma Laboratories Flux. If you look on their website for the stand attachment that I bought, whole bunch of negative reviews. Everybody ran into the same thing. Yeah, they're in the States. The thing is designed for European fit. However, even when you do a European fit, things don't fit exact, and the nub that comes through is so narrow that even with the best, tightest fit on the microphone stand, I still have play like this. So luckily, you wouldn't actually be putting your hands on the board, or it would topple over, or has the potential to top over. But I'm in the process of getting a whole bunch of Moog equipment here. I got my Moog grandmother semi-analog keyboard. I've got the Minotaur, which is a bass synthesizer. I have the Messenger keyboard coming. I have 5 other synthesizers. And then it's a matter of plugging everything in with the appropriate wires. But the musical mad scientist laboratory is in the process. It's not going to be out here within view of the public walking by, even though this is a secured building. It's going to be in the other room behind an additional door. And coincidentally, that door is my bedroom. And I recently discovered a leak in the ceiling. So I mentioned this to a local, and he goes, I don't know of a ceiling in Nicaragua that doesn't have at least one leak. So the leak isn't consistent with the rain. I guess it depends on which angle and velocity it's coming at, but it leaks just past the edge of my bed. It would be slightly near where I plan on storing my equipment. So I needed to buy a tarp. So I've got a table that's 6 foot by 2.5. So I figured I needed something that was at least going to be 8 foot wide because stuff's going to be on top. And for 2.5, I wanted something at least 3+ feet wide. I managed to get a 3 by 2 meter, so a little over 6 in width and almost 9 feet in length for that. And I went to our Cinsa store, which is the equivalent to Ace Hardware, where I mentioned I bought the table from before. So I go to Cinsa, who is our primary hardware store in Matagalpa, which is the main city in the mountains where it rains more than other places, and we are in the rainy season of the rainy city. Again, I make reference. It's kind of like a warm Seattle for temperature, and the hills are much like San Francisco. Well, they don't keep those in stock, and it was a 2-day order from Managua. So I was chuckling the whole time that you couldn't buy a tarp off the shelf in a city during rainy season when it rains, in a place that's known for rain. So much so that when there's more rain than the city can handle, they shut off water so they have time to process the overflow of what they've got coming through from the river, which we did last night. We had our water off again. So I had mentioned that I'm using bottled water service. I also have this jar right here, which is the BioFiltro. So you may have heard me talk about how I was ordering it, and there was a disconnect initially in getting it here. It went through the equivalent of the local postal service, and they don't have a good reputation online. Had not used them before. The owner of the company assured me that it should have been delivered days earlier. And I went to the local post office, and they did not have it there. That's what they told me. And I needed to contact the company, so I got back to the apartment. Now, mind you, it's pretty close to the Brooklyn Cafe and the bank I use and my attorney's office, so a little more than a half mile. It's not out of the way. I pass it every time I go to class. My class for Spanish is about a mile away. So I get back to the apartment. I sent the email to the owner, and I said, they said they don't have it. Come back tomorrow. So I said, if by chance I come back tomorrow and they still have no record of receiving it from you, you claim that they showed proof of delivery. I don't have delivery. Nobody tried to call by my contact information, what have you. So she sent another message. I started getting a bunch of phone calls. Now, mind you, when I went to the post office, it was about 10 o'clock in the morning. They don't have it. They have no record of it. It's never been here. I get a phone call at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Oh, your package is here ready for pickup. I went over. It's the same box we had looked at earlier. Whatever. I got my package. Wasn't overly heavy. Carried it the half mile back to the apartment and got it prepped up. So if you're not familiar with this clay jar system, this is actually using old school tech. The old school tech is back, thousands of years ago. People used different levels of material to filter their water. This one, the clay is made out of a particular kind of straw, and it has colloidal silver. And the reason people used to use silverware and silver plateware for food is its antiviral, antibacterial properties. So you actually have silver embedded. So there's a jar that fits in the jar. You fill the inner jar. It soaks through the porous clay pot into the outer jar where it fills, and then it's got a spout on the other side. Took it a couple days for it to get worked up. I can produce 2 liters of additionally filtered water 3 times a day. I don't foresee a need of more than 6 liters per day, but I have water now stored from it in the fridge. So I still buy the bottled water service. I had one bottle that had little tiny pieces of plastic floating in it, and I was told that's common. And I don't want to drink plastic, and I didn't have a way to filter it. So I take the bottled water service. And remind you, I said I'm paying 150 Cordoba, which is like $5. I'm paying less than $5 to have 2 5-gallon jugs of water delivered to the apartment. So I'm continuing to do that. And people said, well, why don't you just use the filter? Why do you still buy bottled water? Well, we often have water turned off here. To fill that clay jar, I still have to have tap water. If we've had too much rainfall and the city turns off the taps, I wouldn't be able to filter additional water. So I am filtering the bottled water for an additional level of filtration. That is my drinking water. I've got it stored in jugs in the fridge. The clay jar itself actually cools the water while it's filtering in the process. But in the event of water being turned off, like yesterday morning, I needed to brush my teeth. The water was off. So I got some of my filtered water out of the fridge. I use that to brush my teeth because the tap's not working, and problem solved. Normally I'll buy 2 of those 5 gallons at a time. I'm filtering those in from the jar into the fridge. So I should always have at least 5 gallons of filtered / additional filtered water in the apartment at any given time. That's just being proactive after living in Florida and used to having bottled water and being out of safe drinking water from the municipal systems for weeks or months on end. With the hurricanes we got, I'm kind of used to stocking up. So the filtration system, it's actually a company here in Nicaragua. They are handmade in Nicaragua. There's a lid, a base, The inner jar, the outer jar, they're all hand stamped, but they are made locally, and they do distribute it to the U.S. So biofiltro.com. Again, I'm not getting any compensations or any promotions for it, but it works well. The water tastes great, and I've got an extra level of security going as far as what I'm consuming, making my coffee with, what I'm cooking with. I went with the smallest unit, again, up to 6 liters a day. That's enough for me to have water stocked in the fridge. So if I need to make rice, beans, coffee, tea, drinking water, I should always have enough stocked up, can produce more, and it won't be an issue. So that worked out well. And again, supporting a Nika business in the process. I told in the earlier video I was going to have my buddy Mike that was going to be translating for the interviews. Wasn't able to show, which was disappointing. I do have information, so when I get him on next time, I'm going to share his WhatsApp business info because he is doing English tutoring as well. Now, I already have a tutor, but Mike is a native-born Nicaraguan who learned English early. He's worked in the call centers here, but he's actually in our expat WhatsApp group, and he's looking to connect with expats, and he's looking to assist in learning the culture, learning the language. So a shout out for Mike. Like I said, he had to take care of something, so I hope all that worked out for him. And I go back to Florida in about 3 weeks for a week, picking up meds, picking up orthotic shoe inserts from the podiatrist, and saying hi to family. And then strategically, I'm going to hit a couple of my favorite restaurants in town. So yes, I will have dos galitos de carne, salsa de carne, and tocino at Waffle House, which is 2 biscuits and gravy with bacon. And I will hit my local Mexican torta shop in Port Charlotte because honestly, the tortas that they make surpass the tortas I get made by people here. And I will definitely be getting at least 1 bowl of pho at my favorite Vietnamese restaurant. There is, like I said, there's one place in the whole country of almost 7 million people that claims to make pho, and I've seen images of it, and it's not fucking looking too good. So I've held off on that disappointment. But that's the shout out. That was the correction in my Walker statement. Again, the video showing the band marching is from Saturday at Parque Morazán. Still doing about 5 hours a week in Spanish, still struggling with my Spanish. You know, the reminder is, tranquilo, tranquilo, poco a poco, en tiempo, which means, just calm down, little by little, in time. So I know that will be in time. I was kind of happy that I was able to recite what little I did to the woman today in the crowd that was making the pupusas, because that looked absolutely delicious, and that's very filling food. But yeah, that's about it. I will have a significant video coming up with the next order from Envio's Fast Track, who, by the way, I had a good size order dropped off about a week ago of some necessities. The next order I have is going to be music equipment for the most part, and then I have another one of mixed bag stuff. So they actually have some of my stuff, and they've had it for a few days, but they are literally the experts in the shipping business. If they ship that out to me now and then I have stuff in another week, I'm actually paying more for shipping. They consolidate stuff based on when it comes in and how long they want to hold things to save you money in the last leg of transport. So I have about 60 pounds of stuff in each order, and they're consolidating some of that, so I'm looking at like a 120-pound order being delivered soon. But that final delivery from Managua, almost 3 hours north, will cost less than $30. So, winning. That's the shipping, that's the biofilter, that's the new Moog equipment, that's the holiday, that's the quick travel coming up. Veteran centric. I have 2 of my 3 appeals have moved another step. So the longest, oldest appeal going on 6 years. I waited 5 years to see a VA judge who agreed with me but couldn't do the math so well. So I had to send the decision from the Board of Veterans Appeals to the U.S. Court of Veterans Appeals, which is a federal court, not a VA court in D.C., through the private attorneys of Bergman and Moore. Shout out to Cameron. They got the VA to agree to a partial remand because we agreed that I should have won. So we're not arguing that part. We disagreed with the number of months of effective date retroactive, that it should have been a higher percentage many moons before, not just 3 months. And the VA had failed to remember their own definition of clear and unmistakable error. So that claim got resolved at the federal court level in the end of August. It was then kicked back to the Veteran Board of Appeals with partial remand, and now it is waiting to go back in front of a VA judge again. I just got an announcement in the mail at my sister's home asking me if I wanted to provide an additional argument. Now, it's already an appeal. I can't add additional evidence, but they want to know, would I like to make an additional argument? And if I don't respond, they'll wait 3 months before they do anything else. So it's an excuse for the VA to drag their feet for 3 more months, because I've worked this and I've been involved with this. My attorney got you to agree you made a mistake, and my attorney and the VA representative at the federal district court came to the consensus of a list of instructions of what needs to happen. Why would I try to interject a new additional argument? I'm winning. Why would I poke the bear to add confusion? I can't add new data, nor should I, because I've already won. I'm just waiting for the VA to follow the written instructions. So I need to send them a piece of paper signed that says I have no more details. Now, at the appeals level, this is safe to do. In the claims level, when they ask you, do you have any more evidence to submit? Because if not, we're going to hold this open for 3 more months. Often when you send in that statement that you don't have any more evidence to add, they count that statement as new evidence to add. And then they turn back the clock and say, oh, well, now we have a new waiting amount of time because you just submitted new evidence. No, that wasn't new evidence. I was responding to your question, you asshats. So that one's going in the right direction. Second, I got a remand from the board on my rheumatoid claim for my rheumatoid arthritis due to toxic exposure. That was at the board. It took 10 months to get in front of a judge, and luckily, the judge had enough information in front of him that in less than a month's time, he kicked it back to the VA. Now, I don't know what the VA judge expects the VA to work on, because I wasn't provided that information, but the problem with that claim was claiming toxic exposure causing rheumatoid arthritis. Well, the VA concedes I was in an area for toxic exposure. The VA concedes I have a diagnosis of an immune disorder. The VA just wouldn't connect the dots. It was missing the nexus. Well, I don't know how the VA officers are going to change any of that, but instead of it sitting idle like the last claim, the claim that has been sitting on a VA judge's desk now for 7 months. It took 10 months to get to his desk. Supposed to be resolved in 1 to 2 months. It's a direct file review where I didn't trust the VA to see a judge. I said there's enough evidence in it, all in. I don't want to add any more input. I don't want to see a judge. I don't want to interject additional data. There's enough information in this file. You should be able to make the correct decision, and if not, I'll yank it out of the VA's hands. I'll hand it over to Bergman and Moore, and hopefully within a year's time, I'll get a resolution. So, unfortunately, what should have been resolved in 60 days for a fairly simple claim that the VA couldn't figure out how to do, that I spelled out to them all their mistakes in a higher level review, The VA judge, I don't know if he's even alive. I don't. My claim's been sitting on his desk since March 14th, and I have no way to follow up on it. I have no way to question them, but that claim in itself is worth a nice chunk of money, and it's adding money every month they drag feet. So the one that should have been resolved hasn't been. The other two are making the traction, but it can happen. So for fellow veterans that are disgusted with the process, I empathize. That's why I share this information. Again, I was a subject matter expert in the field, and I still run into these problems. I speak their language. I know their processes. I know the procedures for it, and yet I still run into the stupidity just like all other vets. And it's disheartening, especially when you're about to potentially lose a lot of staff. Even if the VA staff that are about to be lost don't work directly in your claims, literally seeing a percentage of your workforce leave the building for good is demoralizing, and it only creates a greater stress level for the other people still working there. So I don't know what we can expect from the VA. I know they've been bragging about the number of claims they've closed this year. They've processed more claims in 9 months than they did the whole year before. Processing a claim doesn't mean that it was successful for the veteran, doesn't mean that it was negative for the veteran, doesn't mean that the VA did the job correctly. It just means they shuffled more paper in 9 months. So when you hear the rah, rah, rah of look what this administration has done for veterans, also look at the removal of levels of healthcare access for veterans. Look at the removal of the staff dedicated to help veterans, who are often veterans themselves. So then you're putting disabled veterans out of work in the process. But it's not all rose tint world. You can't make these statements and just say, oh, look, we processed all these claims, we're doing a better job than we ever did. Just because they processed it doesn't mean they did the job right. And now there is talk about using more automated programs to facilitate the claims process. Let me translate that for you. Using AI software to decide your claim. We have enough cut and paste paperwork from the VA. When you get a written decision, and if it was written in common sense, it would be about 2 pages, but you get about 8 more pages of legalese because it's required to be in the document. So the service officers are cutting and pasting large blocks of information. And when you do that, just like media today, it doesn't all pertain to you. And often they miss details because they cut and paste so much information to take something that should be this thick into this thick because they're required to do so. Well, automating the process means that you can't speak to a human that can look between the lines and realize just because you got from A to D doesn't mean that you were supposed to go through B. You need humans reviewing this stuff. You don't need computer programs deciding your claims, because then it gets to the point of, well, it can't be wrong. The computer says so. Yeah. Anywho, that is updates from Matagalpa. I am going to head back out shortly and go get that pupusa. I came home to get out of the heat. The battery was warm on the GoPro. I wanted to make sure I can get these uploaded. And that gives me an extra mile walk today to go get dinner and back. So with that, I wish you all well, and adios.